Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode number 367 for December 8th, 2024. I'm going to title it Technology Woes because we're both having some issues this evening with different tech issues. Me with headset. Looks like my Xbox headset died, or maybe I'll have to check it later. But I'm using Steel Series right now, so I'm glad I kept this as a backup. With me tonight, I have Mr. Game Logic. How you doing, Game?
Good man. Is it an Arctis 7 or an Arctis 9?
This is an Arctis. Oh, I forget what it was. Hold on, I can look it real quick. This is one actually I was using. This is the one because this is the one I was using for the Switch initially, but you can
Okay.
use it for pretty much anything. So I just kind of grabbed it.
Well, so it still stands. I was going to say there have been many people who would love to have a Steel Series Arctis as their primary headset.
Oh yeah,
As your backup.
yeah, definitely. No, yeah, I've had this one for I don't know 4 or 5 years now. So yeah, it's been pretty solid. It's been moved around and unplugged, replugged, and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's pretty solid. Unfortunately, DBQ could not make it here tonight with us. He's got some holiday stuff going on, but hopefully he'll be back for next week. Big show next week. We'll get to that at the end of the show. But for now, let's head into our main GX stories. I'm going to start off with one. I think probably, I guess one of the biggest games that came out last week was Marvel Rivals, the not Overwatch, but it is basically Overwatch from what I'm been playing for the last few days. Hero shooter made by NetEase, or actually, I was going to look that up real quick. I believe they had.
Well, made by or public? I think
Yeah,
both. I think it is published by, but I think it's actually made by one of their internal studios as well.
developers. Yeah, it just says developers NetEase when I was looking it up right now. So, yeah, I might just be an internal studio that they worked on. They don't mention it here on the wiki page real quick when I was looking, but I could try looking for that later. But yeah, I think it came out last Wednesday or Thursday, and I've played it at least a little bit, like pretty much every day. I think that initial day I played it for a few hours with some friends. I actually had a full group of six, which was actually kind of amazing. I don't think I've ever had that. So, oh well, there's two other friends that I usually kind of play with, and then they're kind of friends of theirs. So, but I think I played with a couple of them before, and then there's a couple more that I had kind of introduced to them that night. But yeah, it's. I think I mentioned this before because I played the beta a month or so ago, a couple months ago. I really was able to get into this game more than Overwatch, and a lot of people out there say no, this is not Overwatch with Marvel characters, but I mean, as far as I could tell. I mean, it really is. Like, I don't really see too big of a difference. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's some differences with the team up abilities that you have between characters. And Game Logic was pulling up some video that I had taken actually just last night. I'd figure for once I tried to get some gameplay up there. And in these first two couple matches, I believe I think I played like 4, maybe 5 matches here. So first couple I was using Loki, and then I think in the last two or the last couple, uh, I was using the Punisher. But you know, there's actually 3 different game modes right now for this game. So you can see the list of characters there on the right hand side. I think I keep seeing different numbers. Like I see 23, and then I see almost close to 30. So I don't know if they're counting like variants of kind of some of the characters. I didn't get a chance to look that up, but there's definitely over 20 characters that you can choose from right off the bat. They're all unlocked at the get go. Um, you don't have to unlock it. The only thing you're really unlocking when you're playing through the game is you can unlock skins. They have sprays, of course, because that and emotes, that kind of stuff that you can unlock, and like nameplates and titles for like like your game card and stuff like that. But all the characters are totally unlocked. You don't have to unlock any abilities or anything like that. Like they're fully there. So that's actually really nice. Little overwhelming because it's like they have their tanks and DPS and healers, but they call them Vanguard for the tanks, strategists for the healers, and I can't remember what they call the DPS. I have to look that up, but they have another name. But and I guess that's kind of another difference within the game. Like even though they have like all these three kind of similar groupings or classes, some of the characters within those classes might have like multiple duties. So like even though um, like if you pick like a tank, like yeah, of course he's going to be like more of the time, more likely or not, he's going to be super powerful. But he might have some other secondary abilities where he might be able to heal or even be like kind of a DPS, and kind of vice versa with all the other classes. So that's kind of nice. And I mentioned the team up abilities that you can do depending on who you're playing. Like if I'm playing Loki right now, and I don't think he or anybody else was any of the other team up ability characters. So with Loki, you can have either Thor or Hela. If you've ever watched Thor Ragnarok, the movie, you know who Hela is as the kind of the villain there. But they'll give you like either some kind of buff or some kind of like super ability or something like that, where you can cause more damage or heal up better, people faster or more, something like that, some kind of buff. And there's some pretty good team ups in the game. I was playing last night with my nephew. This was actually afterwards. He had to go to bed, so I was just kind of playing with randoms. Which, if you play any kind of multiplayer game, randoms is like a crapshoot. But with this game, I've seen, man, when I'm on a bad team, I am on a bad team. Like there's no like it's either you're on a really great team or you're a really bad team. There's no like in between. But I just kind of, it's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, I suppose, in these kind of type of games. But another kind of difference too, and you might have seen this kind of on the right hand side there, like there's some destructibility in the environment. So like you see the wall there's like a hole in there, so you can kind of shoot through that. And I think that bridge above me you can actually knock down. So if there was, like some kind of like the Punisher, or Scarlet Witch, who or not Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, who's kind of more of a sniper. Obviously, Punisher is going to be a DPS. You just saw the bridge fall there. Um, Punisher's more DPS. He's just like shooting pretty much all the time. He's got his different powers, all about shooting and machine gun, shotguns, and he's got like a turret that he lays down and can shoot with that. They might try to get that high ground like that. Well, you can kind of shoot it out, and then they'll have to either go further back or they'll get taken out right away because they're kind of vulnerable. Um, then the three game modes that I was going to mention. Sorry, kind of getting distracted. So there's what they call domination, which is kind of more like King of the Hill, where there's just one spot or a hard point. If you're playing Call of Duty, there's one spot in the map that you kind of just hold. And that's not this one. This is a different one. I'll get to in a second. You just got to hold it until like the little status bar comes up below where the clock is up on the middle of the screen there at top. And once it gets to 100, you win the match. Obviously, there's kind of that push and pull where if the enemy gets on there, they'll start taking control of it, and their meter goes up, and then there's like an overtime if like both teams are like on that spot. So there's that, and then there's this one which is more of an envoy or like there's a little, depending on what map you're playing in, there's like a little thing that and I think we are defending this one. So where that little like kind of square was, that white square you saw before, um if the attacking people get to that, then there's like a little vehicle that pops up, and they gotta like basically follow it through the map or get it moving forward throughout the map. And once they get to the end, they win. And obviously
So it's basically an escort mission.
An escort mission, yeah. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word for some reason.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, thank you. So and then we have to try to defend and stop them. If we can get them all off that point, it's the whatever it happens to be. And I think this is what I think this is an Asgard map, so I think it's like some kind of like weird like Asgardian vehicle or something. I don't know if I can't remember because this game is I don't know if it's because of the characters and stuff, but it seems like I'm running around and just move. You constantly have to move more than I even did in Overwatch, it seems. And it might just be because of some of the characters, like especially the DPS characters like Spider-Man and Venom, because they're like jumping in and out all the time, and you just gotta watch every character. But it just seems like I'm moving around a lot more than I was in Overwatch, or maybe I just wasn't playing correctly. But I am kind of, because there's so many characters, like I'm trying to play as many as I can for at least a decent amount of time, like at least an hour or 1 hour or 2 hour and a half. Because I kind of started out with the Hulk, and I played him in the beta too, and I was like, all right, I played him in the beta, so I only played a little bit of him. Let me try somebody else. So I've been kind of jumping around. But anyways, I'll get back to that in a second. Sorry. So then there's the envoy mission. So and then the third um, uh, mode is, I believe, it's called Conquest, which is more of pretty much just like a combination of just like a death match and like kill confirmed from Call of Duty, where it's just 5 on 5. Was it 5 on 5? That one might be actually be 5 on 5 because this one's 6 on 6. And you're just, they just throw in the map and you just have to, eliminate each other. But when you take somebody out, they drop a coin or a little medallion. You have to pick it up, and you get a point for that. So after so many points, I forgot how much it is. I think it's like 150 points. Then you win the match. So, or maybe even only 100. So there's those three modes. So the first two modes, the hard point and the escort mission envoy is what it's called here in this game. Those are just like in a quick match. Selection that you just select on the screen or select in the menu, and you don't, you can't pick which one you're going to play. It just randomly picks one for you. Conquest one's all by itself. It's in its own selection part in the menu. So you can flip back and forth between those. I tried Conquest once just because they're like achievements that you can do that obviously gives you in-game money and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, let me at least try it just because of that. So I did, and I absolutely got destroyed. Like it was like 100, whatever the maximum points to like I think 20 or something. We might not even gotten that many. So I was like, all right, this unless I'm playing with people, I probably won't play Conquest too often with randoms. But like I said here, I mean, I even though I said like it's either like good or bad, you're either going to be very terrible, you're going to do very terrible, or do absolute good. There's a good balance there when I'm playing through the quick matches, so I don't mind that too much. So, graphically, obviously, as you can see, it looks pretty good. I think I had everything I put up to at least high, at least for right now. I just wanted to kind of make sure everything was running okay. I might try to bump it up to ultra after a little bit. Seems to be playing okay. I haven't seen any issues. I did have a little bit of lag last night for some reason, and the other days that I played, I didn't have that problem. So I don't know if just maybe because there's so many people hitting the servers now or whatever, there's issues, or maybe it was just on my network or whatever. But it was only that one the few times last night that was going on. So kind of annoying. And you might have even seen it in this gameplay. I think I might have caught it too on some of these rounds. So, but yeah, it's runs pretty well. It's pretty obviously there's a lot of colors, and obviously a lot of characters are all colored. The one nice thing about this game is they give you a lot of customization on your UI, and not even just like what you see on screen, but you can change the reticle. Like you could see my reticle is green, so I changed it to green because it's like just white by default. And I wish more games would do that. Like I know some games sometimes have not really options, but they give you like I think Call of Duty gives you can change the reticle like in the screen, not in the settings, but like they give you different reticle colors. Here you can just change it. There's obviously the default colors like yellow, green, blue, red, yeah, orange, stuff like that. But you can actually go into an RGB slider settings and like totally like mess with it. And if you want pink or if you want purple or any other color that they might not have by default, you can do that, which I thought was pretty cool. You can actually change what the reticle is. So I have like a circle, like a big circle with a little dot in the middle. You could put like just like little lines on the on the sides, like 4 lines, kind of where the big circle is. You could just make it a dot. You can just make it whatever you want. You can enlarge it or shrink it if you want, which I thought was kind of cool. Might be kind of weird too. I don't know why you'd want to have it like super big, because I don't know if that like I don't think that gives you like a bigger hitbox for enemies or anything. It's just, I guess, bigger for you. I guess that might help some people. Maybe that they don't play shooters a lot. And I guess especially because this is a third person game, sometimes that's one of the reasons I wanted to change the color, is just because it's a little harder to see the white for me. The green is like perfect. I've always wanted to have just like green so I can see everything. Maybe I might change it to red at some point too. That might be a little bit easier. But on most maps, I wasn't having a problem for so far that I've seen. I think I might only play like 2 or 3 of the maps that there are, but I wasn't having any issues. But like I said before, see, there's just like it's like chaos. Like everything is going on. There's people jumping in and out. There's a lot of stuff going on. But
So I see you're
and
doing a lot of bunny hopping,
yeah,
which is not my favorite tactic. But
yeah,
I'm a little more forgiving of that here than in Call of Duty.
yeah.
But the speed of this game seems to be faster than Valorant, but slower than Overwatch. So is the bunny hopping really effective, or is it just
Yeah,
out of force of habit?
kind of both. Like I do that a lot in pretty much all shooters, and I'll give that credit to Call of Duty for the bunny hop, that you always do. But there's no like sliding ability. Oh, some characters might have that as an actual actionable ability, but not everybody has like a slide or anything like that. And there's no crouching. So the only other way that you could really, if you're not behind cover or anything, I always try to jump, and I've kind of always done that with all shooters. But
I'm
uh,
pausing the video right here. Is this? Can you help me out? So this is Magneto on the far left,
yes.
and then second from the end on the right. Is that Adam Warlock that's in
Yep,
the game?
that's Adam Warlock, yep, and
Okay.
obviously Punisher on the far right, yeah,
Yeah.
Spider-Man, and then Moon Knight in the middle, who got the MVP award there,
Okay.
and then obviously I was Loki on the second to left. Yeah, so yeah, there's a pretty good variety of characters. Obviously you got, Captain America, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, you got the main Avengers, obviously, Black Panther. And then you have some of I think you have some of the Guardians of the Galaxy, like Star-Lord. Mantis is right there, right below me, or to the left of me, when I'm choosing my character. Um, and they have like Jeff the Shark, which I've never even heard of that character before. Like he must be something new because I've never heard of Jeff the Shark before. He's literally like a land shark. He's got legs and runs around and stuff. They have Penny Parker, which is a Spider-Man variant, which a lot of people might not know of. I'm just trying to think of the more obscure. Like I said, they have Mantis, which if you watched the Guardian of the Galaxy movies, you might know of, but otherwise, you might not be aware of her.
Now, are you playing on PC here?
Yeah, I'm playing on PC. Yeah,
Okay. So, any idea of what your performance is, frame rate? Because the video, and I can't, obviously I can't tell if it's the game or your video file. And for whatever reason, I haven't figured this out on Mac yet. I can't, like the video file doesn't come up with the frame rate like it does in Windows. So it feels like this is like a 30 frame per second file. Um, so I'm just wondering like what actual in-game performance is, if you know that it's 60 frames per second,
yeah.
or
I don't know what mine is specifically, but I know some of my friends said they were getting like 120. They're trying to go over
okay.
that, but I guess they're having problems if they try to go over 120, and that might
Okay.
just be optimization thing. So, but yeah, I was gonna put my uh, the counter up there, and I just never got to. I always forgot to reset it or to set it up there, but I don't know. Yeah, and I think this is probably. I was recording this in 1080p, probably 30 frames, most likely. So yeah.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about how. So I guess one quick question before I just do a hand wave and pick a random character. Is Doctor Doom in the game?
Not as a selectable character right now, but he is
Okay.
part of the overarching story that's going on.
Okay. So
It's kind of surprising,
like
to be honest with you.
like so I've always had my misgivings about about this game being a shooter. Um. So how does it balance things like obviously one of my nitnoid comic book nerd problems is you've got the Hulk running around, which is supposed to be a class 100 strength character,
Yeah.
right? In combat with other characters who he would just clearly overpower. How does the game strike that balance between, right? And then obviously, like, most of these characters in the ranged attacks that they were firing would do nothing to the Hulk, right? So I
Right.
mean, how does the game balance that? I guess is my main question. And then my main question is, how does the game balance it? But then, does the game have any like explanation for it? Like, did they miracle up a fictional take, right, that it kind of explains it away?
Well, I see. I don't want to give away the story, but the overall, I can do it, I guess, a little bit generically. The overall theme of the story, which if you watch any movies lately from Marvel or TV shows, is the multiverse. So these are not necessarily 616 characters. Some of them might be, but they've basically been taken from other realities. So while they don't specifically say, hey, this is Hulk, from I don't know, like 800 or something. It could be though. So that's why maybe he's a little bit weaker. He could be taken down by a snipe from Scarlet Witch, which happens quite often because she's pretty powerful. That sniper. Same thing with Hawkeye. Like I just got taken out with one shot from Hawkeye. Obviously, I know I'm Loki. I'm a god basically, and I know he snipes me, but like I said, I think the overall or arching thing is the multiverse, which obviously is a big thing now. So I think that's kind of how they explain everything here. Was there any did you want to go into any questions? Overall, pretty much that's the game. How I was uh, explaining before. There's only the 3 modes right now. I don't know if they're gonna. I haven't seen anything that they're gonna do more modes or anything like that. I'm assuming they would at some point, but for now, it's just those 3 modes. I feel like the Hulk's just like tearing me up right now. So
Yeah. So one question I had is so the game is called Marvel. So one thing I wanted to ask is like these things that I'm seeing with like the flashing bolt or whatever come across, are those like highlight reel events, or is that like what's happening while you're waiting to respawn?
It is. Yeah, it's basically showing how you died. So it's like the death cam. I
It's a
couldn't think
kill
of what it
cam.
was called.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kill cam.
So the game is called Marvel Rivals. I think that I've heard you or maybe others explain that like like different characters can pair up and will often have like some combo move that they pull off or some buff to each other's attacks or whatever. Are there rivalries? Are there? I mean, it's called Rivals. Are there actual rivalries? Like, are there characters who like your powers are more effective against or less effective against, or like something happens when you're like within the vicinity of them? And who is this character? Because is this Star-Lord? Because
That's
I'm
Star-Lord,
looking at it and I'm like, it looks like Booster Gold.
That's the rival. It's DC versus Marvel. They surprised us. No, they don't have like any actual rivals like that per se. Um, I think it's more not so much like characters between the characters, but more the classes. Like even though like if I'm the Hulk or even Loki, like I said, if I'm going up against um, a DPS or even maybe not so much a DPS, but like a strategist or the healers, I'm going to take them out pretty quick because they got pretty low health, kind of ironically enough, since they're healers. But they start off with low health or as their base health, even though they can most of the time they can just heal themselves, but they're pretty weak.
So,
Like you can just yeah,
so that. I'm sorry, that character that just came on screen again looked like Aquaman. Is that supposed to be Namor in the game?
it's Namor. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and they already have a few skins. They probably have like 2 or 3 skins for your, probably each character. At least two skins for each character, if not a little bit more. Like obviously, Spider-Man has like a few different variants already, and so does Iron Man. So Hulk has a couple. So yeah, sometimes they look a little weird, and because of the multiverse, obviously that they can kind of throw the skins in there and do that. So I can't remember. I'm trying to think how many maps there are. I know I've played at least 5 different maps, I believe 4 or 5. I don't know if there's any more than that right now. So you got the Punisher there. So he's got his Thunderbolts outfit. I just outfitted on him. Um, and that's I guess one thing I can talk about is that they have a battle pass, of course, since this is a free to play game. Battle pass is like Halo Infinite, and Helldivers too, which I just found out, which I didn't realize. But when you buy the battle pass, you have it forever, and you can just unlock it, as you play. So you never lose it once the next season starts, which is actually pretty nice. So that's pretty cool.
So like the Thunderbolt skin that you just got, was that a battle pass skin, or there's some number of skins that you just get default like for free in the game?
That one particular one is a battle pass skin, but yeah, you do get some default ones that you can just unlock as you do achievements and missions and quests and stuff that in-game stuff that they give you. So yeah,
All
this
right.
Punisher is pretty OP if you can get if you can get the support. Like he's like before I was playing Loki. He's a healer. Loki's a healer character. Obviously, Punisher's DPS. Loki has some pretty cool moves where he can you shoot the character with just like your main, left click mouse button. And if you hit enemy, obviously it's gonna hurt him. But if you hit your teammates, it actually heals them. Then he has like another kind of circle that he can throw down, and that's like a healing circle. He also has some like clones that he can make up to 2 clones, and I don't know if you might have noticed that when I was playing, like say I'm like and someone's attacking me all of a sudden, and I can look at one of my clones and I can like swap places with him, which is actually kind of nice. So you kind of get an escape, and that's kind of where I was going with before too. Is like even though I'm a healer, I can still kind of jump away like maybe a DPS would be able to escape I should say, like fairly easily. So it's actually kind of nice to have those kind of things. And this turret is just one of his regular abilities. Like it's not his ultimate or anything. So it's pretty OP. I'm pretty sure they're gonna probably See, here's one of the times I was actually starting to lag a little. I probably lag here for like 30 seconds to a minute. Just kind
Was
of.
the female who lined up with you at the start who had like the big hair? Was that like the female Captain America?
I did not see her. I'm not sure. I don't know if you want to kind of roll it back. It was a short, like short, darkish hair.
No, it was like really long.
Oh, okay.
It's like super poofy.
Might have been Scarlet Witch, maybe. Scarlet Witch is in there.
No, that girl right there
Oh,
in the
I'm not sure who
green
that
jeans
is.
and blue ball cap.
Yeah, so no, I don't think that's a Captain America. I haven't seen that skin before, but that might be. That's not Penny Parker, maybe. I don't know because she starts off with her armor already, her arm spider. I'm not sure who that was.
Okay,
Might have
yeah,
been
no worries.
yeah, it might have been a skin. I haven't seen yet. Yeah, so like the Punisher, he's got his regular just machine gun there. He has like kind of a shotgun that he shoots out. There's like a ball of smoke that appears, and then obviously he has his turret. Those are just his main abilities. He also has kind of an escape move too, kind of in the lower right hand corner there. You can kind of see on the second to the left. He's got like a not a turret, but what do you call it? Like a grappling hook that he can shoot out, and obviously escape with that. That's not really grappling hook. No, I can't remember what it was. It's kind of like the one robot from Apex Legends. Oh, zip line. I'm sorry, that's what it is. It's like a zip line. So he shoots it out. That one I'm still trying to figure out because like I don't know if it's like certain surfaces that it can only stick to because like I'll be like I try from far away and from up close on an area and like I still couldn't use it. I don't know if you have to hold it. I don't know if you just press it. Like it's I was trying everything, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I don't know. It's probably just something I have to mess around with or read about more. But yeah, but there's a lot of variations in the classes, even in a tank class. Like Doctor Strange is a tank. I obviously can throw out like you might see it here. He might throw out a his little mystical shield. It's like a little big round shield that he throws out. You got Hulk, obviously. You got Groot. He's a tank. He's kind of that. His kind of characterization is more of that bigger, uh, almost Hulk-like, kind of like in I guess the last Guardians movie where he was kind of the more bigger and bulkier, kind of like that. I'm trying to think who else is a tank. Some of them are not kind of obvious, which is kind of where, like I said, I wouldn't think of Doctor Strange as a tank, but they did make him one. Captain America is a tank. He's another good example of kind of the cross classes where he's a tank, but he's a lot of kind of DPS where you can kind of like jump in, throw a couple hits and jump back out. His one of his abilities is he's one of the ones that you mentioned before that it looks like it's a little bit slower than Overwatch. It kind of depends, and I didn't get a chance to answer that. It kind of depends the character too, who you are. Obviously, some of the bigger tanks, Hulk and Groot are going to be slower just by default, like without doing any kind of abilities. But like Captain America and like Winter Soldier and Hawkeye, those guys are kind of just generally by default just faster. They walk and run a lot faster. There's no run button, so unless somebody has specifically, like Captain America has one of his specials or is actually like a turbo or a boost run, they can pretty much use all the time. If there's any kind of cooldown, it's very short. So there's the zip line I just used. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this game right now, and I think I mentioned this when we talked about this before. It's like I'm familiar with these characters for the most part. So I kind of remember what their abilities do a little bit better than just some random made up character from Overwatch or any of the other games like that. So it's kind of nice that and probably the other thing too is like Overwatch. When I first started playing Overwatch, I mean that game had been out for a while, and I started with the original Overwatch 1, and I got it like I'm sure it had been out 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years already at that point. So I was coming in late. But here, everybody's new. Everybody's trying to figure out. There's Magic, that one right there, that girl. So that's just pretty cool. That was the other one I was trying to think of, the more obscure characters. But yeah, I'm just, I'm getting in when, everybody's playing it. So everybody's, kind of new to it. So we're all trying to figure it out. But when I was playing with my friends, though, we did pretty good. I think we only lost like 1 or 2 games with, at least a dozen games because I got on kind of late that night, so I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to. But we were doing pretty well. Just obviously, in a team game, you're going to do a lot better if you're talking with everybody. Once again, in this game, like I actually had my actual audio on, or my mic on, for other people so I can hear them. And I think only that very first game I played, that was the first time I had in this clip. The very first game I played, that was the first time I actually heard anybody talking. So I was like, all right. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, I think when most people are probably going to be in a group for the most part. So you're not going to hear a lot of chatter too much. So, but yeah, it's definitely, I definitely like it and definitely get into it. So I'll probably continue playing. Any other questions or comments on this one?
Yep. No, I don't have anything else.
All right. So for a second, I thought your game was maybe Marvel related, but it's not Ultron. It's Ultros for the PC. So tell us about Ultros, because I've never heard of this game before, I don't think, unless you've played it in the past.
I have. I've talked about it at least once before, maybe twice, maybe even a third time, because I originally had the game on the PlayStation 5. But since giving up my consoles, this is one that I've reclaimed on PC. I won't go into it too much because I just talked about it last week. You weren't here. DBQ was on. So I continued to play Ultros, which is a Metroidvania indie game that came out on PC this year. I think it's only available on Steam. But I've kind of mentioned how the game is not, it's not super difficult, but it's also not like a walk in the park. I've gone on and beaten the second boss in the game. It's a game that very much plays on its hippiness, and so it's very difficult to actually tell like hippiness and spirituality and stuff, and it's very difficult for me to tell what the actual story is, and I haven't gone off and Googled it and looked all the lore up and stuff, but the sense of it I get now is that it's something about like how there are these like 7 kind of realms of beings on this plane that you're trapped in. I feel like it's supposed to be like a plane of existence, and there's a god right in this thing that you're trapped in, named Ultros. So I saw enough of the story kind of unfold to kind of understand that. So I think what happens is you defeat a boss and then you go onto a room and you either unlock or free or do something about one of these minor gods or something that's on this plane of existence. Like I said, I really can't figure it out. And then when you finish, you get you get sent back to like the beginning of the game. And the first time I did that, I was really cranky because I've talked often about on the show, I do not like rerunning levels. But thankfully, for whatever reason, it starts you back off there, but you can pretty quickly, and you start back at the beginning with no weapons, so you got to first go and find like where the sword was that you grabbed, and it's like always in the same place. So for whatever reason, it does that. But I will admit, you can quickly traverse right from there back to where you were, or the next kind of area of the game that you need to explore, because pretty much once you've defeated one of the boss and released or whatever it is you're doing, the minor god in that area, you've pretty much done most of the things that I think that you need to do. You also get sort of kind of your abilities reset, but not entirely. So I guess that's kind of neat because you can go back and it's not really a roguelite, but when you respawn, it seems like you have like at least one of your abilities that you had kind of progressed through. You can kind of get some of the others back very quickly, but basically what it allows you to do is each time you respawn, you can actually kind of respec your character. And again, it's not as heavy or plotting as like a larger game with RPG elements in it, so it doesn't feel like it's that much of a pain, but it's something. It's not zero, but the game's fairly enjoyable. The second boss that I faced, the first boss that I faced was a severe PETA, and went through like 3 different modes. And I spent 30 minutes or whatever on that screen trying to beat it, but I got past it. The second boss not nearly as difficult. And I thought I was in for the same type of fight that I had the first time, but thankfully either I'd figured out more of the game or it just wasn't as painful, whichever of the two. But got past it. I don't know if this is a game that I'll complete. It's supposed to be, I think, like 17-ish hours, and I'm like, I can't see putting that much time into kind of a platformer / Metroidvania. But I don't know. We'll see how it continues to unfold. Like I mentioned last week, it's graphically like super stylistic. There's lots of elements of like vegetation and stuff. There's a heavy kind of plant and garden theme to the game as you're going through it, because each of these chambers, in various ones of these chambers, there are gardens, and in some chambers there's gardens of like different types, and you can do certain things in each chamber in those gardens, like plant a seed that grows into a tree. Sometimes it's just a low level kind of vine that gives off some type of vegetation for you to eat to like recover health, or actually like put in your bank of like power up points, which then you can apply when you find a sleeping chamber. So, and there are parts of the game that like you hit that you like can't traverse until you unlock an ability, right? That gives you like a double jump or an ability to bounce off walls. And so as you're unlocking those abilities, your ability to traverse the environment also kind of updates and changes. And then sometimes that means you can go back to chambers to unlock something. Sometimes you're compelled to go back because like that's the way to progress right on the level. So I don't know. It's very interesting. Obviously, Metroidvanias are not like my core part, but core game genre. But when a good one comes along, it's super interesting. And a lot of people have had a lot of praise for Ultros.
Nice. So I was looking at some gameplay as you're talking here, just like a walkthrough that somebody was doing. So is it mostly just getting to the bosses? Because I didn't really see him like fighting anything else until he got to like a boss, or this person. I should say he, but whoever it
No,
is.
there are definitely enemies throughout. I mean, it's not like super populated. Like, I mean, in generally, like you're not going around fighting like boards full of enemies. I think probably it's around the saturation level of kind of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. For each like little segment of like, let's say, a segment of the board that you can see on the screen at one time, there's maybe an enemy, or if there are 2 or 3 enemies, they're very like low level kind of enemies. But generally, you're bringing a segment of the board, as you traverse across the map level. You're going to have a segment of the board that's kind of up on your screen, and there's going to be like 1 or 2 enemies there that you need to defeat.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the art style is very psychedelic. I'm watching this thing. It's like, wow, like a '60s trip here.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like somebody was on acid, but that's just the artistic style. And it is very. There's a heavy lean towards like hallucinogenic, like
Yeah.
I mean, room like, I mean, and there's a lot of just kind of hippie, hipster, tree hugging kind of references to, like I said, to other planes of existence and spirituality and all that kind of stuff. It is. I wish I could figure out like an IP to say that there's like an analog to, like, even if it were like movies or comic books or whatever, but I can't
Yeah.
put my finger on one.
Yeah, it's pretty unique. The animation though looks really good. Looks really well animated, so very smooth. Yeah, looks pretty cool. All right, let's jump into our next section with our main news headlines. And if you want to stay on the map, we got some Fortnite, a new mode that's coming out soon.
I think stay on the mic. You meant I think you picked up my map comment.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. The first news story in segment 2 in the news rundown. This story over on The Verge by Jay Peters. Fortnite's new mode is a first-person shooter that's a lot like Counter-Strike. I'll just go ahead and bring this up on the screen, I think. Epic Games is about to let Fortnite creators publish experiences with first-person modes, and to help show what's possible, Epic itself is introducing a tactical FPS shooter. It's redundant. One of my pet peeves. FPS that seems like it will play a lot like Counter-Strike or Valorant. The new mode, called Ballistic, is an adrenaline-filled, round-based 5v5 competitive game mode where strategy, tactical teamwork, and individual prowess are essential for victory. So, I mean, this is kind of super interesting. Like Fortnite has been picking up heat. Um, with I guess did a new chapter just recently launch?
Yeah, they've actually introduced a couple things. So yeah, the next new season of the regular Fortnite has launched. Then also they went back to the OG map, the original first map that they just released this past week. So a lot of well, go ahead. I got some comments when you're done here.
So, I mean, this is kind of interesting as a mode. I think the issue is like I'm not a super huge fan uh, of UGC kind of games. Um, to me, they're always kind of limited interest, and more importantly, you wind up being heavily dependent upon other users creating content and other users creating quality content. And depending on how like the browser, your ability to browse that, it's sometimes it can, depending on the game. For some games, it winds up being like super difficult to really find the gems, right? You wind up having to wade through a lot of cruft to get to that. Um, and various games have come along that have had that element right to their gameplay mechanic. Knights on PlayStation, obviously Roblox, Minecraft, and there are some games that obviously do it better. Minecraft tends to not suffer from that, and clearly people can find enough to find in Roblox. One of the games that I really love, Trackmania. I think they've done a pretty decent job of that, but the difference with Trackmania is, and this is one of the dynamics that always shifts, is it's always a question whether or not the actual development studio, right, is cranking out a lot of content. And in Trackmania, the development studio does actually put out a lot of content, and then it's enhanced, right, by the UGC. But then you can have other games where, like, that UGC is really like the main crutch, and that's what you really become dependent upon. Um, so while this mode actually looks super interesting and definitely looks like the type of thing that would bring me back to Fortnite, particularly, I have a few friends that are big into shooters. Um, I'm less enthralled about the initiative to step more out onto the user generated content plane. Um, and I don't know if that's signaling. And I mean, they had their, well, there was a UGC. Like they kind of opened it up to other developers shops coming in there and creating their content within kind of the scaffolding of Fortnite, and that to me was exciting. But some of the breadcrumb trails here cause me a little worry in terms of like is Fortnite's intention to like dial down like the total number of developers that they have on it, and therefore slow down on the cycle of like new content coming out and start to lean more heavily onto a dependency of UGC. So I don't know. What were your comments, Tal?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where I was kind of going with it. Well, because like I mentioned, they have the new season. They have, they did OG for was it November for go back to season chapter 2. I'm always getting this confused. The chapter 2 map, which is actually one of my favorite maps. They did that for a month, and then like I said, they just released the OG, which was the original, the very first Fortnite map, which was they did that last year too. It was kind of the first time they did that. So and then obviously they have Lego. We got the Lego mode, which is a lot like Lego Fortnite, which is a lot like Minecraft, and just other survival games of that ilk. You got the Rocket League, and they got the Fortnite Festival, which is Rocket League, obviously, or the Rocket Racing, excuse me. While made by the Rocket League team, or some of them, it's not obviously a one-to-one comparison to Rocket League. It's more of just like a straight racing game. And then obviously Fortnite Festival is basically just Rock Band as their music thing. But they keep bringing out these different modes, and now they got this one that's ballistic, and I don't know if that's gonna like water down like what they originally were. And I guess obviously they have this big plan that they want to do this metaverse and have like all these things, um, on their ecosystem. Like you could mention, it's basically like a Roblox the way you look at their interface now. And it's kind of nice because they kind of separate like, hey, this is what this is what Epic made. So obviously they have like the regular battle royal, they have Lego, and they have this is probably going to be part of that, and they have the OG and stuff, and then they have everything else that's content creators have created or developer have created, and they kind of section those out to like the different modes, kind of like in Roblox. But I'm afraid that as they're doing this, and as they're just keep adding on these modes, it's like, well, Rocket League, they're going to have that kind of like, I don't want to say just Google or Apple kind of mentality, but I guess any business, like if something's not working, they're just going to it's just going to disappear. Like, like I'm looking, because I don't know if they still do or not, but they actually show the numbers of how many people are playing like each mode. I don't know if they do that with the content created stuff. They probably, the UGC stuff, they probably do. I just maybe just never noticed it, 'cause I don't play it that often. Usually I play with my son because he likes to play those goofy games, but I don't do it that often. So I don't know, if they're seeing, on their own Epic created stuff, like, oh, like I see Rocket Racing is like the lowest one of all of those. I think even over the Fortnite festival is always like just a few thousand. So are they just gonna? And I really liked it. Like I'll play it here, now and then. It's just one day I'm going to go on there and it's just going to be gone. Like I don't know. Like it's just kind of weird. Like as they're bringing out these different modes, other ones can just like pass by the wayside. Even though they might be really good, or a small minority might think they're really good, but then they're just going to go away. And if that does happen, and if they keep doing that, our people are just going to be like, well, they just keep bringing out stuff, and they're not really concentrating on one thing. I'm not going to even want to bother with these games at all anymore, like whatever it happens to be. So that, I guess that's my kind of concern, kind of going forward with it.
Yeah, so EA mentions, they've welcome aboard, Enate. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming through. Mentions they've been doing user-generated content for a while now, and still are super heavy on the dev-created side. So I don't think they are pulling back. They mentions user-generated content does show how many people are playing.
Okay, so it does. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, it's a matter of wait and see. I mean, I think the big difference this makes to me is when I saw this ballistic mode, I was ramping up to get all in right back on Fortnite. But the notion that this is part of a UGC initiative, right, and it's really just them making an example of what user generated content is going to be able to look like, caused me to pull back. Because just like you said, Ray, what I have is if this is a potential LTM that has the potential to go on and become like a regular mode, right? If this is Apex Arena, right, which has the chance to remain as a consistent part of Legends, then potentially I'm all in. But knowing that it's part of the UGC initiative causes me to go, well, hold on, because now I don't have a ton of faith in investing a lot in it, in terms of it sticking around, right, from a longevity perspective. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So basically, now they're just becoming a publisher, which, I mean, I guess they always have been at the heart of it. But this is within like one game that's become more of a game, which is kind of weird.
Well, this is the thing that's super interesting, right? I mean, we say they're becoming a publisher, but the fact of the matter is that that's what they used to really be, right? Like they've. I mean, you have to go back even further for a time in Epic Games where they were really a developer at heart, right? When they were doing the original Unreal, and Unreal Tournament, and so for a very long time now, they've just been, a storefront and an engine maker. And then Fortnite comes along right after that gap, and it's kind of like we, in particular newer gamers, like they're like, oh, Epic is like they're a game developer. I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's like they've gone through phases of their existence, in similar ways to Valve, right? Valve used to be a company that we used to think of primarily as a game developer, and now we think of them primarily as like the Steam storefront runner, right? Primarily, and then being a game developer is a distant like third, fourth, or fifth. Then you have CD Projekt Red, who we think of primarily as a game developer, but they also run GOG, right? So, it's an interesting, overlay of how we kind of view each of these different companies and what we think of them in terms of their primary role, to the point where people often just have like total disconnects, right, and don't even realize like very many times, you have to remind people that CD Projekt Red runs GOG.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like, even like like my son, he knows Steam as just Steam, like a storefront. He didn't know, I don't think he's ever played any of their former games, so he doesn't know that they made games. So
Well, in fact, right, to the extent, I mean, it's gotten a little better over the last couple of years, but for the vast majority and for many years, people just refer to Steam as Steam. Like they refer to Steam as the company, right?
yeah,
They have that disconnect, that, like, not understanding that it's Valve, right? And that, they're the company that does, they do also do the Steam Deck, and they do the Valve Index, and all these other things. So yeah.
yeah. It's just their own thing, kind of like Nintendo. Everybody calls Nintendo a Nintendo. Even other systems, they'll just say Nintendo. But even within Nintendo, everything's just a Nintendo. There's no Switch or Wii or anything like that. So it's kind of weird. All right, let's jump into, speaking of hardware here, let's jump into some Legion Go SSS's leaks that you got here.
Yeah, so this news story over on Hardware Zone out of Singapore, Legion Go by Izan Hakim. Legion Go S's leaked renders show the gaming handheld having a streamlined design. So that is not that is the possessive apostrophe S, not the plural apostrophe S. There's just one Legion Go S. Lenovo's gaming handheld lineup is set to expand with a new, more affordable option following the releases of the Lenovo Legion Go, which debuted late last year, offering good portable gaming performance with AMD's Ryzen Z1 Extreme chip. There are now rumors swirling of a cheaper version. According to leaks from Windows Central, the renders above of the new, cheaper version, for our video listeners, you can see it there. For our audio listeners, you can follow this news story in the show notes to go take a look at it. It's weird. The original website where I saw this article early in the week had a white SKU. So I don't know if that's going to be, if both of those are going to launch, or if that was a prototype that I'd seen. According to leaks from Windows Central, the renders above of the new, cheaper version, dubbed the Legion Go S, show what could be Lenovo's answer for budget-conscious gamers looking for a more affordable entry into the handheld gaming PC market. I think the major thing about this is it is going to be on a new chip called the Ryzen Z2G APU, which I guess is a lower bin variant of the Z1 Extreme. And I do think that these are binned chips. And what binned means is that it is not an intentionally made SKU of the CPU product line. It means that they're trying to, and I'll just again use designation numbers that people are more familiar with, right? It's like they're making an Intel Core i7, 13,900 chip, but what comes off of the wafer is some number of CPUs where maybe some number of cores like don't work or don't pass QA, and they go, oh, we'll make this a new product number, and it will just have like fewer cores, right, than like the 13,900. This is the thing that Apple is often called. I use the term accused now. Kind of wrote a little bit about this on Blue Sky today. I use the term accused now because there are so many people in this space who talk about that as a negative, and and go down this lane of being judgmental and saying, oh, it's criminal, and like they're not really making new products. I'm like, guys, this has been the practice of the CPU industry for literal decades. Right? There have always been bin chips. That is what a big chunk of the whole Intel Core product line is about. Hey, we're going to try and make the higher end chip, but when the wafer, when the thing comes off, when the wafer comes out of the oven, and doesn't have chips that pass QA, we're not just going to throw those other chips away. We're just going to sell them as a lower product SKU. So I don't know, whatever. So Legion Go S is going to come with 16 gigabytes of RAM. It should equal a Radeon 60M GPU. So I don't necessarily know that this is particularly helpful for the Legion Go. I mean, the major problem with the Legion Go was that it was overpriced. Ooh, no, we don't want to do that. So I almost hit leave studio instead of stop sharing. So the problem with the Legion Go was it was fairly highly priced in comparison to a lot of the competition. Although I say a lot of the competition, really the only real competition that had similar or better performance and was lower priced was the ROG Ally, which is why I constantly go back and tell people, while there's all this discussion that the media is spooling up that handhelds are this hot part of the market. I'm like, guys, everything other than the Steam Deck has sold in the tens of thousands. The ROG Ally maybe has sold in the hundreds of thousands, maybe tipping 1 million. But part of the reason the ROG Ally is doing that is because it has like 9 different SKUs, right? The thing came out, it's had a total time on the market of like, I don't know, 12 to 15 months maybe. And in that time, they've like stacked SKU after SKU after SKU after SKU. Guess why? Because the other ones weren't selling as hotly as they wanted them to be. So, um, you know, but the point is that more vendors are coming out with handheld gaming PCs that now MSI is coming out with one that takes advantage of Lunar Lake, which is a higher performing chip with lower TDP. And you're going to have more people coming out with stuff that is built on the Snapdragon Elite and Elite X. Probably going to have NVIDIA getting in the pool. So I don't necessarily know how putting out a Legion Go S really helps them, because I don't necessarily know. I mean, gamers looking for a handheld gaming PC are definitely interested in a less expensive one. I don't know that they're interested in a less powerful one. So we'll just have to see how this goes. I don't think if Lenovo can keep the price low, the Legion Go S may become a serious competitor to other handhelds like the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck. I don't, but I don't see any notion of price or release. They speculate that it's likely that this will be officially announced at CES in early January. I mean, again, I think even getting something down that's less performant and getting it down to Steam Deck level prices would be attractive. But the big problem with these things is that obviously they then come with all the bloat of Windows. And until that package gets lightened, I don't know that coming out with a less powerful handheld, even at a lower price, necessarily buys them anything. I don't know.
I was about to ask if it's still Windows based. Then I'm assuming, right? Obviously.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, ergonomically, it looks a lot better than its predecessor. I mean, the other one wasn't like, I don't want to say sharp edges, but it kind of almost looks like it's like a little bit more sharper than this. Assuming this is correct, it's a lot more round and like a Steam Deck or Switch. So,
well, I was okay with the design language. I mean, and the big thing about the last one is the big. I mean, you can call it a gimmick. I don't know if I like the neat thing was that the controller's detached off the side, like the Switch.
okay.
So I mean, there's something to be said for that. I don't know. It was kind of. I guess Lenovo is kind of that Jekyll and Hyde kind of company. Like they're ones who, like, you look at their Android tablet line, and it's kind of amazing what you can get for the price, right, in a Lenovo tablet. But then I guess they are also the ThinkPad people who come out with these like super high priced, parts of the market. Although, again, they are with laptops, they tend to be like the number one laptop vendor when you look at those quarterly sales
I was
reports.
gonna say, yeah, a lot of people like Lenovo's over
Yeah.
most other things lately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are their tablets Android based?
Yes. Yeah. And then when they're not number one, they're typically like number 3, and they get and sometimes Dell or HP will be in there, but yeah, we'll just have to see where this one goes to.
All right, nice. All right, we got a couple more stories here. Unfortunately, kind of a bummer stories. If you want to go on to the next one, there, I'll take the last one.
Yeah, this news story over on IGN by Alex Stedman. Life is Strange double exposure developer Deck9 announces its second round of layoffs in 2024. After laying off 20% of its staff early in 2024, Life is Strange double exposure studio Deck9 has announced that it's been hit with more layoffs to end the year. In a statement posted to Twitter, Deck9 game CEO Mark Lyons wrote, "They'd have to say goodbye to some of our talented team members, but didn't specify how many would be affected by the cuts." They're not making light of it, but standard kind of boilerplate message here. that he put out. Difficult decision, challenging times. Life is Strange, Double Exposure reviewed incredibly well, almost to the point where, again, kind of not in my core genre wheelhouse of games, but definitely piqued my interest to the point where I was almost going to, grab it and play it myself. There has been a report of like toxicity and racism and like things being discovered in the, like Nazi symbolism being discovered in the code and things like that. So it's kind of unfortunate. But I mean, the worst thing about it, quite honestly, is that as this story lands, like I almost feel like we've almost become a kind of inoculated to it, and that it's kind of been normalized so much that this story in and of itself like didn't make the big splash that I would have said, 6 months ago. Like it felt like this headline would have made, but I don't know. Any thoughts, Tal?
No, I mean, yeah, it's just unfortunate that we're still seeing, like, throughout the whole year, we're still seeing all these layoffs going on, and now this when was Double Exposure? Just came out, right? Like a month ago or so? Not even less than that.
It was definitely a 2024 release. I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
want to say it came out over the summer.
Oh, okay. For some reason I thought it was later in the year. I don't know.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, but so part of the game development, obviously, and just software development, like uh, when there's big projects and big stuff, obviously you ramp up, and you probably um, get more people, contractors, and stuff like that coming in, and then obviously those people are let go at the end of the cycle. Uh, are some of these news reports part of that kind of, I guess, development cycle? Like, yeah, it's gonna, we're gonna bring this whole big team in, but then obviously at the end, we can't, if it's just like, you know, and then maybe it's a different case for this because it's like a single player game, but we obviously you're not gonna be able to retain all these people. Is that why some of these reports are kind of coming out more, or is it just that we're seeing like so many people, you know, just being laid off? I don't want to say for no reason. Obviously, there's a reason, or at least for the business, there's a reason. But just that kind of thing, where we were just hearing about it more.
No, I don't. I don't think. I mean, and there's, I don't know if I want to say there's been some of that. Like I do feel when I hear news, when I see news reports like that is differentiated, right? Like when, so yes, I will say sometimes the headline gets reported that like, oh, 1,200 developers got laid off of there, and then when you read it and you see the breakdown, they'll mention, 300 of them were contractors. So I kind of discount like the 300. But at the end of the day, we're still in this envelope where we're the industry is still suffering from the overhiring they did during the pandemic. And so, yes, I think the bulk of those employees being let go are just straight up, employees who were brought on as full-time assets, full-time resources, when the company was overhiring. In the past, the things Tao talked about, like you would never really hear those would never get reported as layoffs. So I think from what I've seen and the way I'm interpreting the data, it's beyond that. What I don't know is when the industry does right size and we normalize, the thing that I can't tell is if they'll go back to not reporting, like when contractors and 1099s and and the rent, like, and so what Tao was talking about, like historically there has always been the case that like when you're doing a project, you're going to grow to 350 developers. Some like bulk of those developers, maybe not bulk, but some significant percentage of those developers were always people who were not going to stay around. Like the industry has always been highly migratory, and there was always an expectation that when that project was over, that those employees, would be let go, or and it wasn't even really referred to as like layoff. Those employees were always brought on without an intention of them being long term. Some small number of them would get handpicked to be retained, to become full-time employees. And a lot of the, I mean, this is why I'm so cautionary about like Jason Schreier's reporting, right? Because a lot of the people he interviews are people who were just part of the migratory cyclical. They were never permanent full-time employees of the company. Like they were never permanent full-time employees of BioWare. They were always there for the duration of the stint, right, of the thing that they were working on, and they were always going to be let go, or they were always going to roll off to find the next project, except for like the 2% or whatever of them that were offered full-time positions. So I take a grain of salt when the bulk of the reporting comes from people who were never invested in being right part of the corporate culture and part of that body in the first place. So I don't know.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to give them an out when this stuff happened. I'm just trying to do all possible options there. But yeah, it just kind of stinks. And unfortunately, the next article here, news article from actually GameBeat, which is part of VentureBeat.com's website. Their kind of video game section from Dean Takahashi is reporting that Ubisoft has discontinued development on X Defiant, which was the Ubisoft's kind of COD-like game. So with this decision, they'll be closing San Francisco and Osaka production studios and ramp down their Sydney production site, which ramp down is kind of speak for what we're kind of talking about, I believe, with 143 people departing to San Francisco and 134 people likely to depart from both Osaka and Sydney. So for players, this means the game is shutting down on June 25th. June 2025. And Ubisoft said new downloads and player registrations would no longer be available. I think that's starting immediately. Starting as of December 3rd, there's no more new downloads or new player registrations. So there's one more content drop, season 3 content drop in the near future. They didn't say exactly when. But the servers will remain active until June 3rd, 2025. Sorry, I skipped down to the bottom of the article for what's this gentleman's name? Mark Rubin. Is it Mark Rubin? I'm trying to find the names here. Yeah. Executive producer Mark Rubin kind of has that quote at the end, kind of a email or press release that he gave out. So, fortunately, once again, another not only the studio, and everything, but I played maybe a month or so of this game, and I was it was good. Like it wasn't great. Like I think the problem was it didn't do anything like too different. Like yeah, you had classes of people, but I mean you see that in like tons of different games now. The maps are the maps are pretty decent, medium to small to medium maps and stuff like that. But I mean, it's basically, and I hate to say it, but it's basically trying to be Call of Duty clone with obviously a little bit extra that they put in there with the classes, because obviously Call of Duty doesn't usually do classes like that, but kind of hero shooter / just regular multiplayer shooter. But yeah, it's I hate to see that it's going away and that people have to get laid off like that again, but unfortunately, like I said, it just didn't really. And I think I mentioned this to DB2 when I posted this. Like it was good, but it wasn't it wasn't great. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on. And I think you played a little bit of it. I think you've mentioned it over the past weeks and months. So
yeah, I probably stuck with it about as long as you did. Almost. Maybe I don't know. Maybe into the first month of season 1, I guess. My problems actually weren't about how it did things like Call of Duty. It was more about how they did things that weren't substitutes for Call of Duty. I felt like the transit time back to the fight after respawn was too long. Not Battlefield type long, but longer than like Call of Duty. To the point where like just simply sitting there holding the W key, right, to run back across like a side of the map. Just to me felt like respawns weren't being handled really well. There were some of the ultimates that I felt were kind of maybe not the ultimates that were OP. I was talking to Slow Mo Backslap about this the other night, one of the co-hosts on the Brat podcast, and sometimes it wasn't even ultimates, right? It was just like regular powers that people had, like the dude, can't remember what faction he was from, but the dude who had like the gas grenade or whatever. Like there were just a handful of things that were just overpowered that I felt like they didn't respond quickly enough to rebalance. I felt some gosh, what was that? I can't remember what was the faction. Did I play this? I think I played the Splinter Cell faction. Were the guys that and so they had powers that like would reveal extra enemies on the map and things like that. But like if your teammates and if you're playing with randos and your teammates don't pay attention, like that stuff, then like it doesn't do any good. There was also some really rampant cheating that I encountered, and I think that was the point where I fell off. People had figured out an exploit that actually had them flying like in the sky to the point where they actually had visibility of every respawn point on the map. So like every time you would respawn, they would just kill like, and I'm like, no, that's it. I'm officially out. And again, they just didn't have. I mean, I think they had anti-cheat in there, but they didn't have anything like aggressive as like Ricochet or some of these other things that Call of Duty has done. So just the package in its entirety, I just got to a point where I was like, oh, in the grind of like unlocking faction stuff was just to me again too long. And I get it; they were trying to differentiate and do something slightly different and make you feel invested. And those were some of the good parts of it. Like I invested in that Splinter Cell faction. Like I wasn't off like going over and play. Like you and I often talk about like, oh, we change weapons like every match. Like that was not like that was not the way you played X Defiant. Like you would invest right in having specific loadouts and focusing on like what powers you had, and it had a lot of potential. But it was almost in Overwatch kind of manner and Concord kind of manner. The heights, like that gameplay would be at its best when you were coordinating with people, right? And like people had balanced loadouts and things like that. And and the last thing that really used to really chap my butt was the escort missions, the convoy missions, right? The mechanics of the system were such that if you were facing a team who knew how to do this, they could race across the entirety of the map in the prep sequence, which like before the match actually starts. I don't know, I can't remember what it was. I think you had maybe 30 seconds after you spawned to actually go out and get set up. But one of the teams is like trapped behind like doors, but the other team can spawn, race across the entirety of the map, and set up and camp outside where you're going to have to come through the doors before your doors even open, resulting in like the first like 3 minutes of an escort mission just being like this high attrition thing if you're the team that has to escort, because they just sit and snipe and take you out like as soon as you come through the gate. And that can sort of kind of be countered, but like if it's a team that's on comms and coordinating action, like it just drives like the team of randos right to nothing. It was just a complete waste of time to even play that mission mode. So yeah, I mean, I just and I think I personally feel this goes back to some of the things that we've seen across the industry in the last 2 years, which is, I don't know why, but for some reason, major publishers, big third-party publishers, platform owners, seem to keep putting genres in the hands of of teams who have zero experience doing a live service game, doing that particular genre. No offense, 343 Studios trying to turn Halo Infinite into a game as a service, and just this like ponderous sluggishness of a ship that just never like got its bow over onto the right course for that. the Arcane Austin team being tasked with like floating a game as a service. Quite honestly, the Concord team, right, and PlayStation bought them, and that wasn't a team who necessarily came really out of a veil of doing as a game as a service. And people like, and I'm sure what they're pointing to is Bungie, and their experience. But like, number one, keep in mind, and they've done this by putting them in a genre that hasn't been their forte, and then telling them to make it a live service, and that's a double-edged sword. The thing with Bungie is, they have to keep in mind, Bungie had like a decade of experience of doing Halo behind them, like one of the most successful first-person shooter franchises on the planet. And then it was like, okay, well, now let's take that and let's go make it a game as a service. And they didn't have nearly the uphill trudge to do that other people did. And even then, they still didn't really necessarily pull off Destiny 1 really well, in aggregate, right? Destiny 1 to me was kind of like a first-term presidency. Like, you got elected, but you didn't really particularly do anything that's going down in the history books, right, of any particular effectiveness, right? It's your second term that you're really noted for. So, I think overall, like, I feel like I really want to tell the industry, hey, maybe start doing less of that, right? And I get it. I frequently point to Guerrilla Games and this quite honestly miraculous thing that they did in being the Killzone studio, being told that their mission was to come up with the Halo killer and failing to do that. Still making some pretty solid games, but failing overall to do this thing that was going to be the Halo takedown. But then saying, hey, time out. We're tired of this. We want to do something else. This is our idea. And then becoming the Horizon Zero Dawn studio. Now, Horizon now gets a lot of hate. I'm sorry, I'm just going to call that, kind of typical gamer nickelbacking, because I don't think Horizon is nearly warrants the criticism that it gets today, that all of a sudden it's a bad franchise. So that's just my personal feeling. But at the end of the day, regardless of whether you think it's a good franchise or a bad franchise, it is very rare that a studio converts itself into going down the path of an entirely different genre, an entirely different game type, and does so successfully. And let's not just talk about Horizon, because what Guerrilla Games has done is they've also come up with the Decima engine, which is what props up the Death Stranding games, which have gone on to great critical acclaim. So, it's pretty much a miraculous change in a studio. I think the only one in my mind that I think has done that effectively has been Bungie itself, because a lot of people don't realize is, yes, Bungie's done shooters, but they also did Myth, which was a fantasy RPG genre RTS. And then I would also point to Massive Entertainment, who actually did the Ground Control series, Ground Control and Ground Control 2, which were actually RTSs, and then became the studio that now does the Division franchise. So
it was Massive. Were they the one that did the new Star Wars games too, or like an offshoot of them?
they did they did Outlaws.
Okay, they did Outlaws. Okay, that's what I thought.
I should say no, not an offshoot. I mean, they're at the point now where they have multiple teams, because they also did Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, they've done a lot. Yeah. I think it's hard. Like, yeah. Do you want to see these IPs keep going? Sure, but you also have to think about the devs and like, hey, do I want to do something else? And and then you think about the audience. They're like, hey, why do these guys keep doing this same thing over and over again? I mean, you could say that about Call of Duty, but that's still going. Even though that's a little different situation, I guess, because they do have multiple studios that do, that specifically work on different offshoots of that brand. But like even Call of Duty, you got Raven, you got Beanox that they've done. You had Spider-Man with Beanox. They've done Spider-Man games, and Raven. What was their big? Didn't they have like an FPS or something that they did before that?
Yeah, I mean, Raven has historically been a first-person shooter studio. They did do an X-Man thing, which I think was an action adventure, maybe RPG-ish like thing. But I think what they're most known for, to me, was the Soldier of Fortune series.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so yeah, like they obviously they're on staff, and maybe within Microsoft now they can splinter off and start doing other things. Who knows? I mean, that's like a big question. But yeah, I think it's just hard trying to balance that kind of stuff out, and I guess listening to the audience. It's for a certain extent. Obviously, you don't want to totally be like, oh yeah, let's just keep doing this forever, and or let's not, and let's keep offshooting like who was it who's the Forza doing Fable
Uh,
now?
Playground
Playground?
Studios, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a good, I guess, example coming up. Like they've been a car racing studio, and now they're gonna do an RPG, open world RPG. I'm assuming open world, from what it looks like. So it's just a weird thing. But
Yeah, Nate, one comment I want to mention from Nate mentions everyone acts like that Switch Guerrilla Games did was easy, and yet we've had a lot of studios try to genre switch and fail.
yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, so that's it for the news. So don't have to be Debbie Downers anymore, hopefully. So let's jump into our round robin and finish out the podcast here. So looks like you have a few games here, uh, both on PC and Steam Deck that you've been playing.
Yeah, so kind of made it a priority this week to play on the Steam Deck, and so I went up playing every day this week. It was pretty awesome, including an evening where I had to took one of my kids to a gymnastics class, and it's one where like the parents can't come in just because of the way the gym facility is set up. So I sat out in the car and played American Truck Simulator, which is most of what I played during the week. And to me, like it really highlights like the high end of the Steam Deck value. Like the Steam Deck does a lot of things for a lot of gamers. What it does for me in particular, and this is why, if Xbox ever did do a handheld, had they done it, while I was still on console, it would have been super interesting because to me, and to a certain extent, XCG kind of fell into this space as well when I was on Xbox, but it's continuity. And for American Truck Simulator, which is just a huge grind, right? It's just like, I mean, even to buy your first truck, right? You start off earning like $3,000 per mission, and then per mission, and then you start off earning $5,000. Then you get to $5,000 per mission. Now I'm up at like 7,000 or 8,000 per mission. But to buy a truck and trailer, like you need to get to like $100,000. And you can take loans from banks, but I've just decided I'm not doing that. Like I'm just going to grind. So it's a lengthy grind, right, to get to 100K. But but this is a thing where I can take my Steam Deck and I can put one mission in about 20 to 30 minutes time, and it keeps me keeping that millstone going. So I had a good time with that. The thing I just started playing today was Batman Arkham Knight on PC. I've toe dipped into this before on console, but have never finished the game. It's kind of funny now going back to it in retrospect, having played Spider-Man Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2, and realizing I'm like, oh, like this is a lot of the combat that are in that are in the Insomniac games. Like the Batman game plays very similar, at least Arkham Knight did. I want to say maybe it was the first game. The first game seemed to have, I think, more of kind of the stealth aspect that obviously you still also see in Insomniac games with Batman kind of hanging or staying up in the rafters and dropping down vertically. There's still a lot of that in Arkham Knight, but at least right now in the section of the game you're very much largely in exterior environments, and there are other things you can do to kind of sneak up on people, but it's less of the hanging from the ceiling, right, or sitting in darkness kind of thing. The mechanics are slightly different. So, but I'm having a really great time with that. I'm a little bothered that still today that game is capped at 90 frames per second. So I'm playing it on a 4070 Super with 12 gigabytes of of VRAM, and it would have been nice to get a little more performance out of it. The game still looks gorgeous to me. After all this time. So yeah, but I'm having a good time playing that. Were you gonna say something, Tom?
I was gonna say Night was the third one, right?
Yes,
Of
yeah,
that
yeah,
series. Okay.
yeah. It's a one that got a lot of a lot of slander for the excessiveness of the Batmobile. You know, it was a game that Rocksteady kind of their design ethos going at it was to kind of make the Batmobile kind of like the secondary character in the game. You spent a lot of time in the Batmobile, but I don't know. I didn't have as much of a problem with that as some other people did. Um, also spent a lot of time playing Forza Motorsport 5 this week. I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, you know, one of the things I'm undertaking right now is I'm converting all of my gaming PCs over to Windows 11. And so the stability that I found in Forza Motorsport 5 was not to my liking this week. I don't know if that's part of the problem of shifting to Windows 11. Every night that I played, the game crashed on me at least once. And the last night, which was the most disappointing, the game crashed on me twice, with the second time like being the thing that caused me to just like fail out of the loop and say, nope, I'm going to go play something else. You know, while the game ran, it performed beautifully. You know, I'm getting 160 frames per second out of it on a 3080 Ti. Game looks gorgeous. I still have lots of fun playing cars. I think I've kind of pretty much getting to the point where I'm trying to squeeze out the last of the content that I care about in it. The only thing I care about in Forza is the actual races. And so in that game, I'm like level like 112. I think I have like about 67, 69 hours put into the game so far. So still having a good time with it. Hopefully, stability will improve. Maybe it's just the driver version or something that I'm on. But yeah, having a good time with that. And the last thing that I've been playing this week is a game called Distance. I put that on PC. I'm actually not playing that on PC. I'm actually playing that on the Steam Deck also. And in that vein, it's yet again a great kind of racing game that scales very well down to the low end. It's this whole kind of dystopian setup where it looks a lot like Automan for people who remember that old '80s TV show, but it's basically a game that's a little bit like car parkour. You do a lot of kind of like wall driving and being tipped up into like the vertical. Like there's no like gravity restrictions like in this reality that you're racing in. You with the X button you do little bunny hops to get over vertical obstacles, and then the game has a whole kind of energy and cooldown mechanic to it where when you use boost or you use flight, the entire time that you're using it, your engine core is heating up, and there's a little indicator of that kind of below your license plate, and when you get to the max, right, I think you take damage. If you're flying and you hit the max, your flight will cut out and you'll start falling and you're going to wind up like just dying. I can't remember what happens when you overheat on the boost. I think you just take damage. So, but then that damage like mounts up. But then as you traverse the environment, you do go through these rings that are cooldown rings, and so if you hit the timing right, like you can boost right to the point where you're hitting a cooldown ring, right, and you can just continue boost. Same thing with flight. That's the only way that you can like cross a chasm. With flight, you're kind of constantly in this, should I use flight? Should I not? In comparison to just boosting and jumping. So many is the time that like I've hit the turbo and done a jump, and then I'm like looking at like where I'm supposed to land, and I'm like, am I going to make that? And then I have to at the last minute maybe sometimes pop the wings and I use flight, but it's a ton of fun. The game's kind of on a timer, so I think you have 3 hours and 42 minutes to like complete the game and get through all 17 levels in order to like escape the planet and get to the teleportation device back to Earth. So you're kind of constantly on the clock, but you don't know. I don't know what the optimal time like. So I don't know if I'm like ahead or behind or like theoretically in this game you would hit some line of no return where like you just have too little time to actually possibly feasibly complete the game. So I probably need to do some digging around in that so I'm at least aware of that, so I can pull out of a run, if I've depleted my remaining time too much. But yeah, having a good time with that. And like I said, that scales really good on the Stream Deck, on the Steam Deck. Sorry.
So I was watching a couple of videos. I was kind of jumping around through the video. And so you're not racing against anybody else. You're just it's more of like an obstacle course kind of a thing in best time.
Yeah, very much so. There is co-op in it, and I'm not sure. Now, there are different modes. I'm playing the campaign mode, so that is how the campaign mode is rigged. I haven't pulled the thread enough to know if there are like some competitive. I think there's 2 other modes that seem to be available in the menu. There is co-op in this game as well, so I don't know if that puts you in competition, with other people.
Was this released recently or this year, or is this another
Yeah,
year?
I think this is a 2018 game that
Oh,
it's been
2018.
part of my library for a while. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just watching the gameplay, it reminds me a lot of Rocket Racing, actually from Fortnite, because you can jump. It's the same thing. There's obstacles in the course that you jump around, or you have to do whatever, and you can fly. There's like a boost, and it's on the walls, and then on the ceiling and stuff. So it's very reminiscent of that game. So it's interesting. All right, so I'll round out the show here with my pick real quick before, and this one I didn't add on here. Just I hadn't been here last week, but the last couple weeks I actually prestiged again, second time on Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So I haven't done that, I think, for a while. I might have done that in Cold War. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I know I prestiged at least once on Cold War, but I think it's been a long time since I prestiged a second time. So they had actually caught them on a couple of double experience points weekends. So one that they had at the previous weekend, and then there's one like not too long after launch that they did. So that helped a lot too. So yeah, I did that. And then, but the one game I had been playing pretty much steadily for these last couple weeks, other than here and there, some Fortnite and Rocket League here and there, is No Man's Sky. And I think I'd mentioned I had been playing that before last couple weeks, even before the last time I was on. And I had mentioned how I had just finished the expedition where you can get the Normandy from uh, what's the game? Mass Effect, as one of your frigates that you can send out and have it do missions for you. So you can't control it or anything. You're not in it, but it's just kind of there for doing missions. And that they usually at the end of the year they do kind of redos of their previous expeditions from the previous year, and they did do that. They started that actually that next week after the last time I was on. So I was kind of grinding through that, doing the so every 2 weeks starting from last week. They'll do one of the expeditions from throughout this year. So they did the first one. I think it's going to end Wednesday, I believe. Then they'll go to the next one. But I was just kind of grinding out that first expedition because I didn't. Other than that, the very last one they did, I started doing that one for a little bit, but I didn't get to finish it. I don't think I was anywhere close to finishing it. So I was able to do it finally on this one, and I'm going to try to do it for these next few months. Actually, it's going into like February. I think the first or second week of February was when it will end. So then I'm assuming they'll start, whatever the New Year's for 2025. But I was doing those. So, you get some cosmetic stuff. I did get a new multi-tool, which is basically your weapon or tool that you can use. It has various functions. And then the very last thing was they give you a ship, which is called the Starborn Runner. This one was kind of looks like very reminiscent of one of the what was it, Wipeout from the PlayStation, that racing series. It kind of looks like one of those cars, kind of sleek, very kind of compact and long and sleek looking. So it looks pretty cool. And the one nice thing too about this vehicle is there's no landing gear, so it's kind of like on just like energy, and it just kind of hovers there, which you can actually use to. You can never take your ship and just kind of park it on water before. And I think you could do that with the regular ships now. I think there's like some kind of add-on that you put on that you can do that. But with this one is like it's kind of built into the ship, so I can just like jump off the ship and it'll just stay there. It won't fly away or anything. So it's kind of nice if I'm over water and I have to do something, underneath the water. So that's kind of cool. So I've been doing that, and then after, I think I actually finished the expedition within, I think, less than a week. So I was just kind of building up my base and building up the other vehicles you can get now. You can get like there's a few different cars you can use. There's like a mech that can jump in now and do stuff. So I was unlocking that stuff and just unlocking upgrades for those vehicles and just kind of finding ways that I can make more of the ending game money that they have. So I've just been doing that. So I just been, I don't know, just kind of deep back into No Man's Sky. I don't know why. It just kind of started clicking again for me. So and that kind of happens. I do that a lot with Minecraft too. I'll just jump back in for whatever reason, and then I kind of just get sucked into it because I find a goal that I want to do because I've already gone through like the story mission, the campaign. I've already done that. So I think back on my Xbox, I'm actually playing on PC and Steam Deck. Speaking of Steam Deck, and it runs pretty well on Steam Deck. So I've been having a good time with that. But other than that, let's see what we got coming up this week. We got Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is coming out on December 9th, so tomorrow. Unless you had, I think early access. I think if you paid whatever edition, you're able to play it. I think this weekend. I think Friday or Saturday for those few people. And then you got the Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered, which Legacy of Kain's coming out pretty much for everything other than Switch, and then Indiana Jones is coming out for Xbox and PC for now, and then I think
I know
next year.
Legacy of Kain's coming out for Switch also.
Oh, is it coming out for Switch? Okay. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I see it right there, NSW. Yeah, wasn't acronyms. And then Indiana Jones, Xbox, XS, and then PC, and then I believe spring it comes out for PlayStation, if I remember correctly, that they'll be releasing it, so timed exclusive. But anything? Are you gonna play either of those games coming up?
I'm not planning to. I am vacillating back and forth on Indiana Jones. I originally said no. Just what I'd been hearing is that it just kind of crosses my threshold of game mechanics too low, like cinematics too high. But especially then if in that mixture there's a ton of puzzles, which just means in the overall dynamic, the puzzles will wind up feeling more draconian because there's not the compensating factor of like a lot of combat that I'm super into. But I've listened to some other reviews and stuff, and reminded of how much of an Indiana Jones fan I am. So that movie experience might be worth it, maybe. But then again, I might just be okay with remembering the first 3 movies and like ignoring everything else. So I don't know. I originally said no. I vacillated a little bit earlier today, but I'm probably going to wind up back on no just because there's so many things that are in my wheelhouse of games, game styles, genres that I do like that I haven't gotten around to. That I don't know if I'm going to sidestep to take a look at this. I've already started looking forward to 2025, and 2025 February is just bonga. In January, if you're a JRPG fan, and there's several JRPG properties releasing in January that are IPs that I'm not familiar with, that I'm going to pull the thread on. But if I pull the thread on those and find out, that there's more than one of those, then my January slate is full. There's about like 8 properties in the month of February and again, February is the shortest month of the year, so it's like I don't know how everybody's gonna deal with that. So yeah, there's a good chance I'm gonna bypass Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna play it, but I probably won't get to it this week. Maybe that'll be like a like a winter break, Christmas, holiday break kind of a thing that I can jump onto when I'm away. So just kind of have some kind of chill play that I'll probably play it through XCloud because I'll be away from my home. So, but I was just thinking actually too this past weekend is like there's just so I think this is like probably one of the first years in a while that there's been like a lot of stuff that I've been wanting to play, old and new. That is just like I can't like Call of Duty, Fortnite. I want to jump back into because they got the new season and they have all those other modes. Obviously, No Man's Sky. I'm jumping back into like pretty big time, and there's just all these other games that have been coming out this year that I've been interested in. There's one game I didn't go through, Infinite Nikki, which is like the cozy open world cozy game that came out this past week also that I've dabbled in just a little bit, and like I don't even know when I'll probably have to do that like sometime next year because it's like a big open world game. But and just all these other games that have been coming out, and it's just like, man, there's so much, and then even it's not going to be much of a break next year, like you said. Like there's a ton of stuff coming out. So, but I'll just play what I want to play. So I'll probably just stick with Marvel Rivals and Call of Duty for now, more than likely in these coming weeks. But we'll see. All right, that's going to end episode number 367. Thank you, Game Logic, for being with us. Thank you, everybody who dropped by. At least Nate. Thank you also for that fact check on Fortnite earlier, because I wasn't sure about the user generated content. Next week, I will be hosting once again because it'll be our superlatives extravaganza, where we go through and do, instead of just doing our a normal like, hey, game of the year for this past year, or game of the year for consoles or PC or whatnot. We like to have a little bit of fun, excuse me, with it, and kind of have these other kind of categories that we go through. I think was there 15, I believe, altogether, somewhere around there.
14.
14. Okay. That we'll go through. So it'll be myself, Game Logic, DBQ Hams, and also Swiss. We should be back with us for the end of the year show. Haven't seen him for a little while, so it'd be nice to talk to him to see what he's been playing and to see what his category picks are. So I'll be the main host. I will. Everybody's doing their own kind of superlative list. They'll give it to me within sometime this week, and then we'll go over them Sunday
prior to the Game Awards.
Oh, okay. Part of the Game Awards. Sorry, that's Friday.
Thursday at 7:30 p.m.
Okay. I think it's been on Friday the last couple of years. That's kind of weird. Or maybe they just change it every year.
Yeah, I think that one's been Thursday. I think the thing that caught us off guard this year was that I want to say Summer Game Fest kicked off on a Friday.
Okay. Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
That's right. Because that's all Keeley too, right? So yeah. So we'll be doing actually Sunday. So I believe Sunday and Monday next week. So check us out on both days, where we'll have hopefully the full crew on both days, and we'll go through our spread lists. All right. So thank you, everybody, for watching. If you were live, that's great. If not, you can always catch us on VOD on YouTube, SoundCloud, for if you don't want to just listen to the audio. Game Logic, thank you once again for being here with me tonight, and I will see you next week. And we will see all of you next week. So please take care of yourselves. Have fun. Play those games. We'll see you next time.